Welcome to a brand new edition of Two Out of Three Falls podcast here on the Cruise Control Podcast Network, which you can find on SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and the Cruise Control Podcast Network now on YouTube, presented by Red Bull. As always, I'm joined by Graham Mathews from Bleacher Report and FanSided Daily DDT. Graham Mathews, my man, how you doing?
Doing great, Randy. How about yourself, brother?
Doing good, man. Can't complain. We had the draft, day one of the draft. We got a 1-year anniversary for AEW. We got a Hell in a Cell coming up in about 2 weeks or so. I think 2 weeks from tomorrow. So some matches have already been announced. So, everybody's wondering who's going where for the draft, what surprises are in store. We got a few of them. I'm not going to go through every single selection, but just from overall, before we get into the notables, overall, what was your feedback from night one of the draft?
I feel like there's always a lot of polarizing reaction from fans when it comes to the draft, as far as like, oh, there weren't a lot of surprises or it wasn't done well, blah blah blah. I could certainly see that last year. I thought last year with the reactions from the Fox executives and the USA executives backstage, like for example, the USA Network executives, quote unquote, freaking out over getting Natalya. Who gives a fuck about getting Natalya on your show? You know what I mean? So thank God they get rid of that campy garbage. I thought that was so stupid. They're not even adhering to their own rules. I mean, they're changing the pools up. I think Elias was eligible to be drafted last night. They moved him to Monday. Miz and Morrison, I guess. I don't pay too much attention to the pools and whatnot, but I guess Miz and Morrison were in the pool for Monday, but got thrown into the pool last night anyway. I have no idea. But on the whole, though, nitpicking aside, and that stuff does matter. But I thought overall I liked it. I thought the first round was perfect. I definitely had some issues with the later rounds. For example, why would you pick a Dana Brooke before a Murphy? Murphy went undrafted until today. They actually had a supplemental round on Talking Smack this morning. Murphy got drafted. Kalisto, Tucker of Heavy Machinery, they're splitting them up. So, for example, the New Day was obviously the biggest development of all. Rollins moving to SmackDown was a pretty big move. We'll get into the specifics in a moment. Rollins moving was notable since he's been on Raw since day one of the draft 4 years ago. The New Day have moved, or at least portion of the New Day, so they're split up. That's notable. But overall, I liked it. They only did 4 rounds on TV last night. Some people may argue, and I completely agree, this person should have moved before that person and blah, blah, blah. But other than that, I like the layout. I like the moves. They can't move everybody. For example, Roman staying on SmackDown was not shocking. Drew staying on Raw with the WWE Championship was not shocking. But the thing is that they shouldn't have moved. So, I saw some people say, oh, it was kind of uneventful because they didn't move a lot of people. I beg to differ. They moved the New Day. That was pretty notable. AJ Styles back on Raw trying to escape Paul Heyman, which is hilarious. Bianca Belair and Naomi switching shows. That's notable. That's a nice shakeup for the women's divisions. They broke up Heavy Machinery, which was stupid, but they did that. There were a lot of other people that, obviously Rollins being on SmackDown. So there were a lot of notable moves that they made that I thought were interesting. And they didn't shake up the rosters too much because they could very easily draft everyone to the other show. Then at that point, Raw becomes SmackDown and SmackDown becomes Raw. And they've done that before and it makes absolutely no sense. So I like the moves they made. I like the execution overall. I'm hoping night 2 will be as good as night 1.
It's funny when you mentioned, AJ was trying to get away from Paul Heyman. I'm pretty sure Seth Rollins wanted to get away from the Mysterios, but, unfortunately, that did not happen for him.
Exactly. So Rollins going to SmackDown, I'm like, oh, man, not only is this cool that we get to see the Monday Night Messiah on SmackDown as the SmackDown Savior, as he's now calling himself, it is what it is. I think even better than that was the idea, thank God they're ending the Rey Mysterio stuff. It's been going on since May. It's October. It's been 5 months. And listen, I've mentioned this to you before, Randy. I like lengthy feuds if they make sense. The feud died a death. I would say it peaked at SummerSlam, or maybe even a payback with Dominic and Rollins, or the Dominic and Ray versus Murphy and Rollins tag team match. Great matches, but the feud has offered nothing of note since then. Rollins' involvement has been stupid. The whole Murphy Elias stuff, I'm not a fan of at all. But of course, they have to draft the Mysterio family to SmackDown, and we found out this morning Murphy's going to SmackDown too. So literally they're taking the entire Mysterio family drama bullshit with Ray, Dominic, Rollins, Murphy, and probably Aaliyah and the mom from Raw to SmackDown. The whole purpose of the draft should be to split these people up, not just put everyone back on the same show. I thought that was incredibly dumb.
I did notice that obviously the champions stayed on their shows, except for now we'll get to it. The New Day are the new SmackDown Tag Champions.
Mm-hmm.
They're now on Raw. So obviously, in my head and probably your head, you're thinking the Raw Tag Champions, Street Profits, are going to go to SmackDown, and somehow, some way, they might go into a unification match, which is probably the only logical thing I would see happening. So, before we get into the whole New Day thing, were you surprised that the New Day are once again tag team champions?
Yeah. So the whole New Day thing, I'm of two minds on this. The pros and the cons of the whole New Day thing. I like the fact that they're back. It kind of came across a little uneventful because Kofi's been out for a few months. He's been out since July. Right. Xavier's been out for over a fucking year, dude. He got injured over a year ago. And then he just kind of strolls right back in a backstage segment. It's like, okay, like, is he cleared now? And then they announced the tag team title match. So I thought they could have done a better job of making that a bigger deal. It should be a really big deal to have Xavier back on the show because he's been gone for so long now. Like the Ember Moon return, for example.
Right.
I know that's NXT. She was out for a year. They built that up. She came back on Sunday. Felt like a very special moment. Xavier showed up in a fucking backstage segment. I thought that was stupid. Like Lars Sullivan, for example. They gave a bigger return to Lars Sullivan than they did Xavier.
Yeah, right?
Whatever. So I have my own opinion on that as well. But with the New Day, why would they get a tag title shot? This guy's been injured for a year. We don't get rematches anymore. I know Big E and Kofi never went back for the belts after they lost them to Cesaro and Nakamura at Extreme Rules in July, but you don't get automatic rematches anymore. And plus, that was 3 months ago. So why would they just get a random title shot? And then they won, and then they get drafted. It's just a mess. So I actually like the idea of the New Day going on separate shows. It was rumored about a month ago from the @WrestleVotes account. They're actually pretty credible, more often than not. And they hinted at on early Friday morning, they quote tweeted that tweet from a month ago about the New Day and put a Vince gif attached to it, something, and okay, maybe they're going back to that idea after all. Because in that initial tweet, he indicated that the deal was off the table. It wasn't going to happen. I have to assume, and I talked to Big E a couple of months ago, he made it very clear that the New Day will never break up. And I don't see this as a breakup. It's not like Big E went off on Kofi or Xavier. It's not a breakup. They'll just be on separate shows now. I think that's great. We can only see so many New Day 6-man tag team matches. Kofi and Xavier can do their thing in the tag team division or even in singles, whatever. It's time for Big E to shine on his own. I don't think he's going to get the full singles push. And I guess Kofi won the WWE title with the New Day. But I think with Big E, he's got to do it on his own. I think SmackDown's the right platform for him. I like him being on a separate show from Kofi and Xavier. I like that a lot. The logic that Raw, so the way this was done was incredibly stupid. So Raw gets Kofi and Xavier. Why wouldn't Raw, they get the first pick of that round, why wouldn't they pick Big E too? Did they not give a fuck about Big E? Like, I thought that was really stupid. And when they make the picks too, I guess the logic is that they make the picks in between rounds. So I guess maybe they thought, maybe Kofi and Xavier win the tag titles. That's why we want them on Raw. But why wouldn't you draft the whole New Day if they are eligible to be drafted as a unit? And then SmackDown's like, oh, we'll just take Big E on his own. Why wouldn't either brand want all three guys on their show? I thought they haven't explained that. They probably won't explain it, whatever. But on the whole, though, I do like New Day going to separate shows. That might not be a popular opinion, but I do think it could benefit everyone involved. Getting the tag titles for the millionth time, who gives a fuck? But I actually do like them being on separate shows, though.
Yeah, because earlier the Hurt Business was selected as a whole. So again, people are going to say, well, if you take all four of these guys at one time, then how come you don't take the New Day? But I think for me, with there's no on-air GM for SmackDown or Raw, so they can't really have a backstage interview asking a Stephanie or Shane, like, hey, listen, why did you take Big E and not Kofi and Xavier or vice versa? Yeah. There's nobody to answer that. So when they win the tag titles, and then Steph says, "All right, Raw selects Kofi and Xavier," but now they're tag team champions. Maybe that's the little twist. They picked them because they're the tag team champions. And my thing is that it looks Big E. It makes Big E look a little weird or stupid because they got picked first over Big E.
Exactly, yeah.
And
But Raw could have picked them all together. That's the thing. So I don't know.
They could have done SmackDown picked Big E and then have this thing. Oh, okay, maybe on that next selection they might pick Kofi.
That would have made more sense.
Raw picked him first.
That would have made way more sense. But even then, that's a little questionable because still, why wouldn't SmackDown want all three if they can get all three? The fact they went in the fourth round is kind of stupid when you consider that this is one of the greatest factions of all time, definitely of the modern era, one of the greatest tag teams they have in either division right now. Why the fuck would they go in the fourth round under, God, I don't even know, Mandy Rose? Dana Brooke came after, I think, but like, they were after, like, listen, I like Naomi, I like Bianca. Why would they go ahead of the New Day in round 4? Like, this again, I know it's nitpicking, but if you're supposed to take this thing seriously, I know it was the timing of the show. They had the tag team title match later on in the show. The whole thing felt incredibly rushed. So, I don't know. I just thought it was bizarre. They have to explain it. Again, they won't. Totally agree with you, Randy. This is why we need GMs. I never thought I would say that. Because the GMs on the shows would always be on the fucking shows. Like, when Stephanie and Shane were running the shows a couple of years ago, they were on it every episode, and it was terrible. Exactly. It was terrible. But that being said, it makes sense for stuff like this. Stephanie making the picks, okay, but then like who's coordinating the picks? They said WWE.
Who's there to explain why they're picking these people? So hey,
exactly, yeah.
Stephanie, why did you pick XYZ at 5th? Well, because I felt he or she was the best person. Something to make it more real. You can't just say, all right, Raw selects who is selecting for Raw, who picks for SmackDown. I have no idea. So when they get picked, it's like, all right, now I'm going to this show. For me as a fan, and a lot of fans on Twitter were like, oh my God, I feel heartbroken and this is sad. I'm like, they're going to be on separate shows. It's not like you said, it wasn't like Big E turned on Kofi or Xavier.
Which they should have done anyway.
They turned heel or whatever. It just, all right, they're going on separate shows. And that's what it is. So everybody has been wanting this Big E singles run. He can't do that I feel he can't do that if the New Day are still on the same show. So me and you talk about when is Big E going to be champion? Is he going to be a WrestleMania spot with Roman Reigns or before that or after that? Now we have a chance to see the full potential of Big E as a single star, which we haven't seen in a while because New Day and him has been together for what, 5-6 years already?
6 years now, yeah.
Yeah, and they always been, majority of the time, they've been good guys. So it's like, all right, let's try something different. I would assume you bring Street Profits over from Raw to SmackDown. You do a unification match for the tag championship. And then again, if they do that and New Day wins, you might have New Day defend on both shows anyway. So
exactly, yeah. That might be the current plan, actually.
I don't see the big deal. Did you see Big E's face when, he did not get selected because Xavier was like, yo, say Big E next, say Big E next. They did not. Even earlier when Big E won the match against Sheamus, and like you see his face wasn't like too happy or too thrilled to see the new Kofi and Xavier there anyway. So they might be plotting something for the future. So my bottom line is the New Day had to be separated. They did not break up. We'll see what happens. I think seeing Kofi and Xavier on Raw could be way different than SmackDown. I think a lot of these guys have been on the same shows for so long. It's like, all right, everybody needs a new breath of fresh air, new talent, new everything. So I have no problem with the New Day being separated and not broken up.
No, I totally agree. I think with the New Day, I think they're definitely better off on separate shows right now just because, like you said, they've been on SmackDown as a unit for 3.5 years. They were selected by Raw in the initial draft 4 years ago, went to SmackDown in the Superstar Shakeup in April of 2017. It's October 2020. So they've won those titles a million times over. I don't know what the tag title situation is like. As you mentioned, this probably means the Street Profits go to SmackDown. I really hope they just don't swap the tag team divisions because I'm getting that sense is what they're doing. Because they put Miz and Morrison on Raw. The New Day are on Raw. The Lucha House Party in the supplemental draft earlier today. Kalisto's staying on SmackDown. Again, why wouldn't SmackDown just take the entire Lucha House Party? Why would they just want Kalisto? That doesn't make any sense. So I assume the other guys go to Raw. Graham Mathews and Lince Dorado. then that's another SmackDown tag team on Raw. I wouldn't just swap the divisions. The whole point of the draft is to create fresh matchups. I don't want to see Miz and Morrison versus the Lucha House Party on Raw instead of on SmackDown. It just kind of defeats the purpose. Another interesting thing to note, though, is that I was thinking about this the other day, and this might be what they're going for. So WWE very rarely, if ever, separates couples in the draft, especially people that are definitely married. Usually if they're dating, it's hit or miss, but like, for example, I doubt we see Carmella go to Raw if Corey Graves is still doing SmackDown commentary. They wouldn't separate. I know Becky's pregnant, but when Becky comes back, if she comes back, she'll probably be on SmackDown with Seth. I feel like that's a given. But yeah, so anyway, now that all the shows are at the Thunderdome, they're all in the same place and they're not traveling right now, which might change at some point. They're not traveling. They might be more willing to put couples on different shows. For example, like the Street Profits may stay put on Raw, but Bianca, who's Montez Ford's wife, might be on SmackDown. Or for example, Jimmy Uso wasn't drafted last night. He's out hurt for a couple more months. He might come back to SmackDown with his brother. That's an interesting situation. His wife, Naomi's on Raw, but his brother is on SmackDown. So they could always, it's fucking WWE. They could always put people on the opposite show if they want to. They diminish the brand split rules constantly. So what would this really change anything? But that'll be interesting to follow. But yeah, with the New Day, I like it. They look legitimately shocked. And speaking to Kevin Owens, he even mentioned, and this is really no secret, Jim Ross has said this a bunch of times, that they don't tell you who's going where until we see it happen on TV. Owens himself has said that. Jim Ross said that. That was pretty evident last night. You mentioned the Big E not being too happy to see Kofi and Xavier. I noticed that too. I don't know if he knew at that point that they were getting split up. I doubt it because, again, I feel like, they were happy, but he wasn't. So it's not like they were all somber and because they knew they were about to be split up. I don't know what that was about. I just think it was because Big E was beat up earlier in the show by Sheamus and they had that hardcore Falls Count Anywhere match, which is why he wasn't like over the top about it and seeing his buddies again. But yeah, no, I liked it. So the reaction from Big E, the guy was on like the verge of tears when he got drafted. So I like the real emotion. If they don't tell these people about the draft moves before we actually see it on TV, that's pretty shitty. Because yeah, it makes for better TV, but at the same time, it's pretty shitty for them to not know ahead of time, and we find out along with them right there in the moment. So they've always done that. They want the raw, real, instantaneous reaction.
Exactly.
But, I just think that's pretty shitty. But other than that, I like the whole thing, though, for the most part.
And like you mentioned, they're in the same building. It's not like
they're
going into LA and Big E got a show in like Florida. They're in New York. They're in the same building. So for a certain time, you never know. They might go back to the arenas at some point in time. But it didn't matter to me. I didn't see it that way. I'm like, all right, I think it's a new opportunity for all three of them, and we'll see where that goes. Seth going to SmackDown was pretty cool. Seeing him, I think he was on Raw for it felt like a decade.
I know. Well, he's technically been on Raw since he debuted in 2012, but officially on Raw since they brought back the draft 2016, which was 4.5 years ago. So
4 years of Seth.
It's a long time.
But now he goes to SmackDown with he's away from Ray and Dominic and those guys.
Nope.
They get drafted to SmackDown. I'm pretty sure they're going to continue this rivalry for a certain amount of time. I guess when that is done, who on SmackDown you see in the pathway for Seth Rollins going forward?
I think for both guys, Rollins and Ray, who I'm most excited to see them interact with, no surprise here, but Roman Reigns. Ray, because Ray and Roman, I don't think I've ever had a one-on-one match. They've, interacted in Survivor Series matches, tag team matches, 6-mans, whatever. Never one-on-one, I don't think. That could be a lot of fun. I know Ray is, beaten down more than he was 10, 15 years ago. But he could still go in there and have a good match. Him bumping around for Roman could be a lot of fun. To heel Roman versus, ultimate babyface Rey Mysterio. That could be great. Rollins and Roman at some point is going to be very interesting. Now that they're both heels again, we're not getting the fucking Shield because they're two totally different characters. Rollins is doing the whole Messiah thing, and Roman's the tribal chief. So they could forge an alliance. I don't even see that happening. I don't really see where Rollins fits into the whole tribal chief thing. So I think at some point when Rollins goes back to being a babyface, which is inevitable, it may not happen now, it may not happen in 6 months. I would give him some more time as a heel because he's still doing really well in that role. When it happens a year or two from now, and even by that point, they might be on separate shows, that babyface Rollins versus heel Roman feud, which we've never gotten before, is going to be fucking awesome. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. Based off what we know about the roster so far, there's still a lot of people that we don't know where they're going. Braun, Jeff Hardy, Daniel Bryan, we're going to find out on Monday as well. AJ, we know, is on Raw. SmackDown, I'm trying to think who else they got that,
I heard Bray might be
going to Raw. Might be, yeah. So
you like that move if it happens?
As long as Alexa Bliss is with them. I mean, they fucking closed the show with them last night. So if they switch shows and they don't put Bray with Alexa, that's incredibly stupid. And this company does a lot of dumb things, so I wouldn't be surprised, but I'm really hoping that doesn't happen.
Help me up real quick. Was Bayley picked yet or no?
No, because she's in the pool for Monday. So yeah, I feel like last night was all about building the women's division because we found out SmackDown got like Bianca. They got Naomi went to Raw. Sasha Banks is still on SmackDown, which is notable. I thought they might move her and Bayley. I'm glad they're not. Like Raw could select Bayley on Monday, and I really hope they don't. I know they're doing their match at Hell in a Cell. I think they've been doing great work on SmackDown. You can have them on the same show but not interact. So I want to see that happen. Maybe they can move one of them back to Raw next year, but anyway, I'm trying to think who else SmackDown got that would Ray and Dominic at some point as a tag team in the tag team title picture could be a lot of fun versus I don't even know what tag team SmackDown has at this point. They lost Heavy Machinery, they lost Miz and Morrison, they lost fucking Lucha House Party. Maybe the Forgotten Sons. I'm not exactly sure if they come back at some point. Yeah, we got to see what happens on Monday. I'm thinking SmackDown holds on to Daniel Bryan. I think they hold on to Jeff Hardy, I'm hoping. Jeff and Rollins at some point, fucking cool. I think that'd be awesome. We've never gotten Jeff Hardy and Seth Rollins at all. I think that'd be a lot of fun. Daniel Bryan and Seth Rollins. That could be a lot of fun. Daniel Bryan and Roman and Jeff Hardy. Braun, I'd send his ass to Raw. Keith Lee could come to SmackDown. Matt Riddle, it also depends where he goes. We're not getting Rollins and Matt Riddle, I'll tell you that much. He said on the WWE Watch Along last night. Did you see that clip?
I heard about it. I saw the clip real quick.
It was like a 20-second clip, but he's like, I will never work with Matt Riddle. All right, so we're never getting Rollins and Matt Riddle, which would have been cool, but I guess we're not getting that match.
You felt that was legit, or?
That was 100% legit, because I don't think Rollins would say that unless, it's not like he's saying, I don't want to work with Ray now that I'm on SmackDown, or trust me, they never say who they don't want to work with. Anyone I've ever talked to, in character and stuff, they've always say, I want to work with this guy. They never say, I don't want to work with this person, unless it's an established feud. We know nothing about why Seth Rollins doesn't like Matt Riddle outside of maybe the recent shit that came out about him. That's what I'm chalking it up to here. So that's not a good sign. But other than that, Matt and Roman Reigns, did they do that? I don't know if Roman would be willing to work with Matt Riddle. I don't exactly know, but we got to find out on Monday, I guess.
We got Bayley and Sasha on SmackDown. I didn't think the match was going to happen. I thought maybe some shenanigans would have happened before to keep holding off, but they said, fuck it, we're going to go with Bayley and Sasha tonight for the title. DQ finish, which is expected. And now we're going to get them both inside Hell in a Cell, which is something you said months ago. I don't want them in the Hell in a Cell. I know what they're going to do. They weren't going to wait to WrestleMania or the Rumble or whatever. They're going now, which they could have a match later on at the Rumble or WrestleMania. This is probably part one of many. But seeing them last night, did you feel like, okay, we've been waiting for so long for this rivalry to go head to head. Now we got the match. I know it's on SmackDown, and it's not much to critique. It's a DQ. But seeing that, were you happy to see them go at it on SmackDown, knowing that this is not the end-all, be-all, and they're going to go at it again for the title at Hell in a Cell?
I just thought it was stupid. I know they did the match to set up Hell in a Cell, like you said. You don't fucking do that. You don't do I know it's not the same thing, but you don't do the main event of WrestleMania on Raw a month earlier and then end it in a DQ. And I think there's a very good chance, it was reported a couple of weeks ago, and I believe it, that Sasha and Bayley's going to be going on last, as it should. I don't know. I know they didn't give away the whole match on the show last night. I don't know if it's been old. What'd you say?
At Mania? That was what you heard? They'll go on last at Mania?
No, at Hell in a Cell.
Oh, Hell in a Cell.
Yeah, this story ain't making it to WrestleMania, I can tell you right now. They're just going to have Sasha win the next pay-per-view, which, whatever. But at any rate, I think maybe it's the old school fan in me. I'm not really sure. I would rather see the first big encounter between two superstars on a pay-per-view. If it's of this caliber, if it's like a mid-card feud, whatever. But like we've been waiting for this, as you mentioned, for 4 years now. They've had matches in that time. They had a couple matches against each other on Raw, like in 2016, 2017, maybe 2018. They've had some matches against each other here and there. But other than that, no major matches. Last night was for the championship. That was really dumb. I know they tried to do it to pop a rating or whatever. They already had the draft. They already had The Fiend versus Wyatt. They already had Big E versus Sheamus. There was no need to do that match last night. I thought that was really stupid. I didn't hate it because I'm just kind of like over it because it's WWE. But I'm glad they didn't. I mean, honestly, I was worried when they did it last night after seeing like some of the moves they were making. I'm fucking worried that they're putting Bayley on Raw. And that's why they did the match last night. I'm thinking, not that they will. I don't think they will. But I'm worried when I'm watching that last night, they're going to have Sasha win the title last night because Bayley's going to Raw on Monday. And they're just going to end the feud there, which would have been just beyond stupid. So it could have been way worse than it was last night. And I'm glad they didn't do that. They still could put Bayley on Raw, but I don't think they're going to do that. Nor should they.
I think for me, when they drafted Sasha to SmackDown, I was like, oh. Because now, she's staying on the show. Let's say she has a match with Bayley. And then let's say on Monday, Raw drafts Sasha. Now it's like, damn, Sasha got to wait. I mean, now she can't get Bayley for the SmackDown title. The only way that can happen is if she wins the Rumble.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know what? I'm going after Bayley again. So now they're on the same show. Again, Bayley going to Raw would not make as much sense as Sasha going to Raw for the time being. So when you draft Sasha right away, I'm like, okay, well, you kind of just kill all that idea. Now it's like, all right, what if Sasha don't win at Hell in a Cell? Then what? Does she wait to the Rumble and win the Rumble to go at Bayley again at WrestleMania? I don't know. That's the only logical thing. Do you see Bayley losing at Hell in a Cell?
I do. I mean, I like the idea of having Bayley win and then keeping the belt. I mean, I've been against this idea before. It really is more a matter of execution because it could go either way. You could keep the belt on Bayley, and it's like you drag out the Sasha storyline until WrestleMania. Right. But then it might reach a point where it's like, and it could also be great where they drag it out and it works. Old school booking wise. With the way WWE works now, with how many shows they do, how many hours of wrestling they do, we could get so sick of that fucking story by then. Like these women were all over Raw and SmackDown for like 6 months this year, probably more than that. To the point where I was like, I just told you, just get the shit over with already. I'm just so fucking beyond it. But now that after that attack, and they've already had Sasha come back, which was stupid. That attack was so brutal. They could have kept Sasha off the rest of the year, and I would have believed it. But they don't like to do that shit, especially with someone as big of a star as Sasha. So I didn't have an issue with Sasha staying on SmackDown. I think that's the right call. If Bayley goes to Raw on Monday, then you know Sasha's winning. I mean, that's what would piss me off. But yeah, I think Sasha staying on SmackDown is the right call. If you have her lose, you know she's going to win it at some point. Like, there's no question. She is winning that championship eventually. If it's not at Hell in a Cell, then it'll be at Survivor Series or TLC or the Rumble or Mania or whatever. It's going to happen inevitably. You can have these people on the same show after the feud is over and done with and not have them interact, as long as there's other women to fill the void. You know, like before there really wasn't. I mean, I guess there was. They had Mandy Rose and Sonya. They were doing great work. Mandy Rose is on Raw now, but Bianca's on SmackDown. If Sasha loses, you can have Sasha, or rather Bayley, face Bianca for the rest of the year, or at least for a month or two. That's an idea. I forgot who else SmackDown got with the women. I don't remember. I know Raw got a bunch of people. They got Asuka, they got Shayna, Nia, Naomi. There's probably more I'm not thinking of. Mandy, Dana. They got actually a ton of women. SmackDown got a decent amount too. But either way, it depends who stays on SmackDown. They have options. They have options as to what they can do. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do. Sasha winning the title is inevitable. It may not happen to the pay-per-view. I think it will because the Mandalorian comes out right after. The Mandalorian comes out like fucking 5 days later. So It's going to happen inevitably. But I'm glad they did what they did. So we'll see what they do. And I think the match is going to be good. I'm just not a fan of how they're rushing the rivalry because it feels like any magic or any juice this thing had like a month ago, they've lost a lot of it in the last couple of weeks with what they've done with these two women.
So I don't know what what happened today with the supplemental draft. I know for the main draft last night, we had SmackDown getting Roman, Seth, Sasha, Bianca, Jey Uso, Rey Mysterio, Dominic, Biggie, and Otis. Raw got Drew McIntyre, Asuka, The Hurt Business, AJ, Naomi, Shayna, Nia, Ricochet, Mandy Rose, The Miz, Morrison, Kofi, Xavier, Dana Brooke, and Angel Garza. I mean, not many.
Again, I think overall the picks made sense. Like I would, for example, I would have put Ricochet on SmackDown and Angel Garza. I probably would have put him on the show. Of the two, I would have moved Ricochet. Ricochet's been fucking dead in the water on Monday since he debuted for the most part. Ever since he lost that U.S. title over a year ago, the guy has done absolutely nothing on Raw, and I don't think they will. I mean, it doesn't even matter because they have the same writing teams for both shows, but it would have been a nice change for him, a nice reset. We didn't get that. It really is all a matter of what they do on Monday because Monday more people are eligible. They drafted some of the bigger guys last night, but I'm curious to see where Wyatt goes, where Kevin Owens goes, Braun, Jeff, Sammy, Bailey, Keith Lee, Matt Riddle, all those people. Those are some pretty notable names there. So I'm curious to see what they do. I'm
assuming NXT is not involved in this.
No, they're not. So what I could see them doing is just calling people up after the draft.
Right.
I could absolutely see that happening. They didn't do that last year because they've already called up a bunch of people this year just at random. Like they called up Bianca after WrestleMania. They called up the Forgotten Sons after WrestleMania. Right. And then they called up Matt Riddle in the spring in like June or so. And they also called up Keith Lee after SummerSlam. So it kind of feels like they're not really they're not sticking to a specific, after WrestleMania, all these call-ups. Like, we haven't gotten that in a couple of years. So I think if they wanted to bring someone up like a Rhea Ripley or a Velveteen Dream or something, then they would just show up in a couple of weeks. Like, they've done that before with the shakeups and whatnot. So I could certainly see them doing that again in a couple of weeks or so.
So aside from that, nothing else really popped on SmackDown, right? Nothing new aside from the draft and a couple matches and Sasha and Bailey. We got the KO and the Fiend at the end. Nothing really else, right?
Not really. I just thought it was a good show. I've enjoyed SmackDown by and large for the last couple of months, which I didn't think I would say a year ago because the show was shit on Fox for like the first 6 to 8 months. It was really bad with nothing going on. Goldberg beating the Fiend, the Roman and Baron Corbin bullshit was terrible. Just a lot of whole fucking nothing on SmackDown, but they've been picking up the pace recently, not just for the draft stuff, but I like last night's show. They further the Sasha and Bailey stuff, not the way that I would have, but it furthered that. We got a title change. The Big E Sheamus match was excellent. That was the best part of the show. I thought that was a great Falls Count Anywhere match. Really enjoyed that. The Fiend and Owens stuff I didn't love. People are going to fucking hate the no selling from the Fiend, and I get it. I totally get it. I didn't hate it. It just kind of is what it is. That's why you don't have the Fiend wrestle so often, because you're going to get matches like that where he just takes all this abuse, gets like shot in the head, and then he just gets right back up because that's what the character is. So whatever. But I like the show overall. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do on Raw and what they do going forward. I think this is a real chance to shake up the shows, and the shows could go right back to being dull in a month or two, which is almost always the case. But they have a chance here to shake some things up. So we'll see what happens.
So before I move on to AEW real quick, so as of right now, Hell in a Cell, 3 matches, all Hell in a Cell matches.
Yeah.
Roman against Jey Uso in an I Quit match. Could be interesting. Drew McIntyre and Orton, and Bailey and Sasha. So you're getting 3 Hell in a Cell matches in one night.
Third year they've done this. They did this with the first Hell in a Cell pay-per-view in 2009, 3 cell matches, and they did it again at Hell in a Cell 2016 at the show that I was at in Boston. They had 3 cell matches that night too. Listen, 2 is a lot. 3 is fucking overkill. The problem is that with these matches, because they've chosen to continue the feuds, they have to be cell matches. Bayley and Sasha, their first match, I mean, I guess last night was their first match. With the story they've been telling, it kind of has to be a cell match. Mm-hmm. It's weird to have the match on the show and not be a cell match. And that should be the main event anyway. You have Orton and Drew. That is going on for so long, it has to be a cell match. They should have just moved the fuck on from that because I just don't care anymore, but they're still doing it. And Roman and Jay, because they're doing that again. Honestly, though, that doesn't really have to be a Hell in a Cell match. They could have just made that an I Quit match. The more I think about it, that's kind of pointless because the I Quit match stipulation was added last night. I like that a lot. That makes sense. The cell stipulation is a little silly now that I think about it. So they should have just gotten they just should have just gotten rid of that. Whatever. 3 is way too fucking much. We'll find out the rest of the card after the draft kind of takes place. And I feel like the draft rules won't really go into effect until after the pay-per-view because we got to see like feuds finish out.
Right.
Honestly, I know he's not cleared, but like the Ray and Rollins shit would have made sense to blow off in the cell, like in a tag team match or something with Murphy and Dominic.
Yeah.
That would have made more sense than like Ray and Jay or Roman and Jay being in there because they already have the I Quit shit. Like, dude, Unforgiven 06, they had a Hell in a Cell match on that show with the McMahons and DX and a TLC match with Edge and John Cena. So, like, you can have a show that has multiple stipulations. I know it's not Extreme Rules, but it beats the fuck out of having 3 cell matches on the same show, which is complete overkill.
Right. So we embarked on the 1-year anniversary for AEW Dynamite on TNT. I think
last Friday, yeah.
Last Friday. So real quick, many fans are gonna say they love it, it's okay, they hate it. Some are gonna say that it changed the landscape of the sport, and again, the pandemic was not in their control. I do understand that. So the question I'm asking to you, for the stuff that was in their control, what have you made of AEW Dynamite in its first year on TNT? The pros, the cons, what they've done great, what they can still work on, some of your best pay-per-views that you've seen, and stuff like that.
I saw your tweet that you put up. I don't know if it was earlier this week or last week when you said, maybe it was last Friday. I think it might have been the exact anniversary. You had tweeted, we're 1 year out from Dynamite's debut. Did it really change the landscape? Remember, I think you quote tweeted like AEW itself, or no, maybe it was Bleacher Report. I don't know. You quote tweeted somebody and said, did it really change the landscape though, or change the world or whatever?
Yeah.
That's a very interesting question because I could see it being argued both ways. It's not a definitive yes, but it's also not a definitive no. It did change the landscape of wrestling, not drastically.
But
because
how? Tell me how.
Having an alternative, and it hasn't been a bust either, because they've either maintained their viewership, and I know they got 1.4 million viewers that first show. They haven't reached that number since, but I didn't expect them to. The way with the way TV works now in wrestling, and also the pandemic too, that's a factor, but not a huge factor. They've also gotten very close. They've reached over 1 million before. I think they reached over 1 million a couple of weeks ago. Without NXT, we know they can get to 1 million. NXT is only there to take away from Dynamite. WWE's sole purpose with NXT being live on Wednesdays is to take away from Dynamite, which I think is so petty and stupid. They're not going to put them out of business. They've already signed a multi-year deal since Dynamite debuted a year ago. If Dynamite debuted and fucking failed and got only a couple 100,000 viewers, they wouldn't have re-signed with TNT. They would have been like, this was a bust. We tried it. It didn't work. Moving on. But it wasn't, though. So they're on TV for the next couple of years. We've seen a lot of people change companies. These people would not be going there if it wasn't like, if they didn't have money and if they didn't have TV. A lot of people moved to TNA. TNA also, for as much shit as they did and how stupid, management decisions they made in years that followed, initially for the first 5 or 6 years, TNA was a real alternative to WWE. AEW may soon fall in that same category, and I hope they don't. But for the first year now, they've done some really, really good stuff. The Bucks have moved over. John Moxley was obviously a big get for them. And he's their biggest star. They have a lot of Cody. I mean, obviously was already there anyway. But
so let's count how many have gone from have changed companies. So
you look at go ahead.
You got Ambrose, Moxley, Cody, Luke Harper, Brody Lee,
Matt Hardy,
Rusev, FTR, Jake Roberts.
Technically Jake Roberts. Serena Deeb was in WWE as a coach. Ty Conti was there in NXT.
Okay.
I could look up and down the roster. What'd you say?
That's 8 people so far.
Let me pull up the roster. I could tell you exactly who moved over. There was a lot though, especially this year. They've signed a lot of people. Zack Ryder didn't sign with them, but he was there for a little while.
Okay.
I don't know. I wouldn't count him just because he's not signed with them. Let me see. Adam Page, no. Billy Gunn, I don't want to really count fucking Billy Gunn, but Chris Jericho, obviously. What'd you say?
Jericho 9, so we count Jericho.
Chris Jericho.
Swagger.
Yep. Dustin Rhodes as well was another one.
That's 11.
Let's see. You already mentioned John Moxley.
Yep.
Lance Archer was in the company like 10 years ago. I wouldn't count him. You already mentioned Matt Hardy.
Yep.
It really is not as many as I thought. Neville, but he was there from day one. I guess you can count him. Yeah. I guess even though he left WWE a couple of years ago.
So
these are just 12. Sean Spears obviously is another one.
13.
And then for the women, it's not as many guys as I thought. For the women, it's obviously a lot less. A lot of these women, aside from Serena Deeb and Ty Conti, I don't think any of these women were in WWE. I mean, Awesome Kong was for a cup of coffee. That was like 10 years ago. So honestly, it's not as many as I thought. Because they've signed so many people this year, but it's not as many WWE people as they thought. Like they signed Ricky Starks. He was an NWA guy. Eddie Kingston, NWA guy. Colt Cabana was a Ring of Honor guy, NWA guy. So they've signed a bunch of WWE people, but they're not signing everyone under the sun. They didn't bring in Gallows and Anderson. They didn't bring in Kurt Hawkins. They didn't bring in No Way Jose. They're not giving everyone who got fired a job. They didn't bring in Kurt Angle. I don't think Kurt Angle's going anywhere. I think he still works with WWE to a certain extent. Yeah. But getting back to your original question, it offers an alternative. It's given a place for people to work. Because Jericho went there initially, it raised the stocks, not the stocks, but the contracts of everyone in WWE. Mojo Rawley's making hundreds of thousands of dollars for doing absolutely nothing. I mean, that's just the nature of the business right now. With WWE, they don't want anyone to go there, so they are willing to offer these people, like the Revival, who I like, but are they worth $750,000? Absolutely fucking not. Absolutely not. Are they worth that amount of money? No, I don't know. I mean, only very few people are, I would say, in WWE or AEW right now. But at any rate, it's just a real alternative. They have TV. They've put on great matches. People are enjoying the product by and large. Is it perfect? No, not from. There's a lot of things I can complain about AEW, probably more than some people. But it's been great, and they're just growing. They're just growing. They have a second TV show on the way, which feels like it could be like a SmackDown type thing. I don't know if they would do like a brand extension. I don't think they would do that exact same thing. But having 2 shows will help because they have so much. Honestly, I almost have too much talent now than they know what to do with. So I think a second show is going to help out a lot in that respect.
Is there a name for it yet or no?
No, they announced that before the pandemic, and then the pandemic happened, so that kind of put those plans on hold. Like Dark, it's not going to be Dark. Dark's a complete waste of time, I think. Right. But yeah, I think it has been a success. The ratings have not dramatically plummeted. They've gotten a lot of goodwill, and the ratings are better than NXT, and NXT is an established entity. I mean, it's been a WWE brand for almost 10 years now. AEW is a fresh new product, and it's not like, oh, let's check it out for a couple weeks and then we'll tune out. It's actually miraculous how AEW has managed to not only maintain their audience most weeks, but go up other weeks. Like you never see that now, ever. I don't know if TNA ever did that. Other companies, definitely not. Not even WWE. Their ratings and audience continues to go down. Like they hardly ever improve nowadays. So there is something to be said for that. I fucking hated when they first started the company, the whole change the world thing, because they didn't change the world. They didn't change the world. They're not going to take over WWE. That's not going to happen. I don't think they'll ever be the number one wrestling company. Tony Khan has a lot of money. They're a big brand that has great exposure in TV and whatnot. But they have, their toys are selling very well. That's very impressive. But WWE is a media conglomerate. They own so much shit and so much money that they will never, ever go out of business, I think. In one way or another, no matter how low those TV ratings get, I don't think WWE is going anywhere, even if it means selling it to a different company like Disney or something, or Netflix or whatever,
Right.
or NBC or something like that. It's not going anywhere. AEW will never beat them in that respect. But in terms of quality and even their ratings are honestly not too far off from WWE's. Raw's continue to plummet every single week. They have maybe half the audience that Raw does, which is pretty impressive. They're not amazing numbers. There is no real war. There's no war going on. It's not the Monday Night Wars. When this first started a year ago, we expected this. I mean, I don't know if we expected it, but they were playing it up as like, oh my God, we're going to slaughter each other. They're only doing a couple 100,000 viewers. It's not a real war. But it's 1.5 million viewers there on Wednesdays combined between the two shows that wasn't there a year ago. So I think that's a big win for everyone involved.
So, real quick, which was the better show for you? What was more watchable for you before the pandemic and now during the pandemic? Was it Dynamite? Was it NXT? Who you feel had the better show before pandemic and now during the pandemic?
That's a good question. I'm glad you separated it between pre and post pandemic or during pandemic. We're not going to be after that. We're not going to be over this thing for a while, I don't think. But because I did think early on NXT had some better shows. Like late 2019, I would say NXT was the better show. I remember more about NXT last year than I do about Dynamite. Like with Rhea Ripley's rise and Finn Balor coming in and some of the stuff they were doing there. Amazing shit. Amazing shit.
Adam Cole still being champion for mad long. You know?
Yeah, and he was champion for the better part of this year too. I just really feel like, and Dynamite shows are about the crowds too, but I feel like even more so NXT. NXT is a great show still. It's very good. I don't know if I would go great from week to week, but I would say it's definitely more watchable than Raw and SmackDown, at least in my opinion. SmackDown maybe, but definitely Raw. The thing with NXT is that it really does rely on those audiences for the weekly shows at Full Sail, for the takeovers. It's just not the same. That to me is the biggest issue with NXT right now, is the lack of audience. The directionlessness of some of the people there. They have a very good roster, but like Ciampa's not really doing anything. Gargano's been there for so long that he's done literally everything. They don't really know what to do with him from here. Adam Cole, I think it's high time they moved on. They're kind of in a weird spot right now where they're not really, I don't know, the brand isn't really picking up any steam. That's the issue. And they still put out good content, but there's not like, oh man, I got to tune in every week. I got to see this one person, or I got to get this or whatever. I don't really get that feeling right now. Whereas with Dynamite, they do have more people in the buildings, which they're able to do and whatever. That does help. But they just have some better stories right now, some better matches from week to week, and it's not all perfect. I thought TakeOver 31 blew All Out of the fucking water. All Out, I didn't think was that good at all. I thought TakeOver 31 was amazing. But I think from week to week, Dynamite's the better show. I think it has more of a must-see feel, not just because it's the newer show, but like the Paige and Omega stuff. I'm very interested to see what they do with that. Cody's the TNT champion, has been a success so far. They got FTR in the revival. FTR and the Young Bucks kind of building in the background. Sheeta's been a very good women's champion. The women's division is still a big sore spot for them. They got to work on that. The tag team division is, just jam-packed right now. MJF is very good. He's always one to watch. Jericho's always doing some pretty cool stuff. They're building up new people. There's a lot to like about AEW. There is a lot of stuff to like about NXT too. But in terms of just the pure energy of the two shows, I would say before the pandemic, NXT for me, which a lot of people might disagree, was the better show. But I think post-pandemic, Dynamite has been better.
Yeah. I gotta watch Dynamite more. I tell you this all the time, man. I just don't be having time on Wednesdays to watch both Dynamite and NXT. I might catch a little recap here and there just to see what's been going on. But if you're telling me it's been a better show during the pandemic, then I'm gonna try to do my best to check it out more. But yeah, I'm just surprised that seeing this going on for 1 year, still strong. Like my bottom line is, I want everybody to do well. It's never been a war to me. I've seen the real war. Raw Nitro, that was it. All this sharing 900,000 viewers is not really a war. Again, maybe if there was no pandemic, you might see a spike in numbers. We just never know. But just to see both companies still putting out product and content during this time and doing the best they can with the the Thunderdome and then Daly's place in Florida and just doing whatever they can get to get fans in there. I just want to commend them for that. I was watching Dynamite for a little bit prior to the pandemic with the Jericho storyline. That was great. The Omega, Moxley, that was dope. Had a few good pay-per-views here and there. Me as a fan in totality, it's just tough for me to watch every single week with no fans in the building. So that's been my problem. Can I overcome that? Yeah. Because there is no end in sight to everything. So hopefully they get back into arenas and stadiums and stuff like that. But I'm not an AEW hater. It just, takes me a while to watch the product. But I think they've been doing a really good job since they started a year ago.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the product is just really good more often than not. There's a lot of things that don't make sense. I mean, the power rankings are ridiculously dumb when they just have, like, I don't know, they'll give random people title shots. They do tournaments a lot, which I like tournaments, but it's like, why do a tournament if you have power rankings? So,
yeah,
they say wins and losses matter, and they do, but like, then why are you just, I don't know, they go back and forth with a lot of stuff like that. The Orange Cassidy push has kind of had its moments. I feel like he kind of peaked a while ago. The Jericho feud kind of died a death after a while. The matches weren't that good. Moxley's been great, though. I'll tell you right fucking now, he's the biggest star they have. And they have a lot of good people. I think Adam Page is a future top star. MJF is a future top star. Jungle Boy has potential. Ray Phoenix is very good. Darby Allin is awesome. Brian Cage has been a good get for them. Lance Archer's been a good get for them. But Jon Moxley, I mean, there's a lot of Jon Moxley / Dean Ambrose haters still out there, which I get. I've talked to people who said, he hasn't really changed at all. He kind of feels the same. He's underwhelmed in AEW. I feel like that's the minority, though. Since he showed up in AEW, he's been booked to perfection, and he's also held his end up of the bargain very well. He's gone undefeated one-on-one. He's held the championship now for almost 8 months. He's had great matches with Omega. He had a very good match with even Joey Janela when he first showed up, and Joey Janela really isn't that good, but they had a good match. He had a very good match with Jericho, good matches with Darby Allin, Brody Lee, Brian Cage, MJF recently. The guy cuts great promos from week to week. People love him. He gets great reactions. He's just the star he is the star now that he should have been in WWE 4 or 5 years ago, but they just never really capitalized off of that. But we're finally seeing it now in AEW, which is awesome. Omega feels not as special as he should. They still need bigger stars outside of the elite. I will say that. Adam Page is a future star. Omega's still great, but he needs to kind of turn heel or something. Cody's been awesome for them, but they got to start building up that next generation. I don't think Orange Cassidy's part of that group. He has a very limited shelf life with his gimmick, but again, the Jungle Boys, the Scorpio Skies, the Darby Allins, the MJFs, those are the guys that are going to take that company into the future. I feel like those are the people they should be building up, and none of those guys have any prior to WWE experience at all, which I think is awesome. And Sammy Guevara is also great too.
And I think, real quick, last point, I think it's cool to know that, I could be wrong, help me out, that the Young Bucks were never tag champions in the first year, right?
Nope, not at all.
Omega was never world champion in the first year.
Nope.
Nor Cody Rhodes.
No, I mean, I know, Omega was tag team champion for a long time. Cody was TNT champion for a while.
The main title,
No, the main title's only been held by Jericho and Moxley. Jericho had a 6-month run, and then Moxley's had an 8-month run. So they haven't played hot potato with it. I like the longer reigns if they make sense. It's not like they're just changing. It's not like they're keeping the belt on someone for the sake of keeping the belt on him. Like, Moxley is done great. Jericho is doing great as world champion. Not so much now, but when he was the champion, he was doing great work. So it's like, at least they're putting the belt on someone, I think, that's like the best in the company at that moment, which is what it fucking should be. It shouldn't be like, oh, whoever we want to try to get over. Like, you got to get the people over. You got to get that person over and then put the belt on him. You can't get him over with the title on him, like a Jinder Mahal. There's my obligatory Jinder Mahal reference of the show.
Stop picking on Jinder. Stop picking on Jinder.
Thank God he wasn't drafted last night. Who gives a shit?
Hey, watch out. He might go to Raw now.
Oh, God, no.
I think the one thing that is still dumb today, and probably the dumbest thing they've done storyline-wise.
AEW?
AEW is when Cody said, if I lose to Jericho, I can never compete for the world title again. And you do that within 2 months.
No, that was dumb. They shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
No. They could have just I don't know. I just thought that was stupid. There's a lot of things. I don't like the excess of factions. I like factions, but they literally have like 10 factions.
Oh, and that Dark Order? Oh, boy.
Listen, I like Dark Order. They've grown on me. I like Dark Order. They're not booked very well. If you watch Being the Elite, the thing is, Being the Elite isn't Dynamite. So they got to air stuff on the show that makes you care about this group on Dynamite. If you solely watch Dynamite, you won't give a fuck about them. I like the Dark Order. I like what honestly, I fucking hated them a year ago. They've grown on me. Inner Circle's just got to go. That to me is just a waste of time at this point. They're all losers. They've all fucking lost a ton this year. They just got to break up. But yeah, I think that the excess of factions, I'm just not a big fan of. The Eddie Kingston stable to me is a waste of time. I like the Butcher and the Blade are in there. I don't give a fuck about the Butcher and the Blade. They had the Nightmare Collective at one point. They got rid of that. Thank God, because that was terrible.
That was terrible.
Dude, that was bad. I will give credit to AEW though. If there is something that just isn't working and that they think that the fans won't like, they just end it or move on. Like the Nightmare Collective, they're like, listen, we fucked up. We thought it would be a good idea. We're just going to move on. And they did. So thank God, because it was atrocious. They haven't really had to do that a lot, which is nice because they don't have a lot of bad ideas. So that's good.
Right. So when is the next big show?
Anniversary shows on Wednesday. That's definitely going to be must watch. I'm very excited for that. They have 4 title matches. It's basically a mini pay-per-view.
Right.
The dumb thing about the show is that they're calling it the anniversary show. The anniversary, as we established earlier, was last Friday. So why wouldn't you do it that week or this past week? I don't know. But they're doing the 1-year anniversary show. Maybe timing isn't their forte, but they're doing it on Wednesday. And I guess the Jericho 30-year celebration shit was kind of what fucked it up. But anyway, they're doing that on Wednesday, and then Full Gear is their next pay-per-view on November 7th. So they have nothing advertised for that so far because they just want to get to the anniversary show. But most of the pay-per-views so far have been very good. They're very takeover-esque, where I haven't really seen a bad show. All Out was very underwhelming to me. I thought it was a good show, but it dragged on for way too fucking long. I was not a fan of it. But other than that, their pay-per-views have been very good overall. So I will give them credit for that.
So we got Full Gear coming up next month, and we have Halloween Havoc for NXT coming up.
I was just about to say, we had to mention Halloween Havoc before we winded down here,
I mean, I don't know who's fighting yet, but I saw the graphic. I'm like, oh, okay, they finally went there. Finally, it's about time.
Listen, we've been saying this. I mean, a lot of people have been saying this, but we've been talking with this Randy on your show. I was talking to RJ, my friend, the other day about this. Coach RJ, but we've been talking about this, Randy, for years now. Halloween Havoc. I mean, how do they not utilize Halloween Havoc? I mean, they fucking own the name. They haven't done it in 20 years since WCW went under. They brought back Starrcade as a house show gimmick. The Great American Bash they used as a pay-per-view before using it as an NXT special a couple of months ago. War Games as a takeover event. Why no Halloween Havoc? Give me the fucking pumpkin. We know they have it in the warehouse somewhere. We know they fucking have it.
Right?
So they're going to use the pumpkin because you can't do in your house and do the whole house setup, which was awesome, and then not do the pumpkin setup for NXT. If you're not going to do the pumpkin, then don't do it. But I think they will. They got Shots of Blackheart hosting. She's really good. She fits the theme of the whole Halloween thing awesomely well. I love it. I like how they're using it as an NXT special. Could they use it as a pay-per-view? They could. Does Vince want to? Probably not. He doesn't care about WCW. He doesn't give a fuck. That's why Starrcade is like a house show gimmick, whatever. But so I'm so happy it's back. They've announced nothing so far, but the show's not for another like 2.5, 3 weeks. So I get it. But I'm really excited for that because I love Halloween and I love Halloween Havoc, and I'm so happy it's back for the first time in 20 years.
Likewise. So we'll see what matches transpire for Halloween Havoc. Graham Mathews, always appreciated. Bleacher Report, FanSided, Daily DDT. On Twitter at WrestleRant. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Randy J. Cruz, RENDY, for the letter J, CRUZ. Find the podcast on SoundCloud, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, and the Cruise Control Podcast Network. Now on YouTube, presented by Red Bull. Graham, my man, thank you.
Thank you, Randy. I'll talk to you next week.
All right, man. Take it easy.
All right, you too. Adios.
All right.